Hello, my name's Kayla, this is Cinnamon the Score Bunny, and today we're going to be looking at some alternate theories for the box art symbols for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. To make it easier to refer to the symbols, I gave each one a letter. In my theory, A has to do with multiplayer, B has to do with quantum time crystals, C has to do with a navigational tool called a sextant, and D I'm less sure about, but is probably a way to adjust Pokemon's stats. Obviously my ideas are just theories, but in my opinion, it's the best explanation we have for these symbols so far. But because I'm a strong believer in the scientific method, I think it's very important to examine all of the other possible theories out there as well. I asked everyone both on YouTube and on Twitter to send me their theories, and boy did you guys deliver. Today I'm going to go through the theories submitted by all of you, and I'm going to assess their credibility based on the things that we know about Pokemon, and also just generally using logic. We're going to start off with theories that you guys submitted about individual symbols. So these are theories about one symbol or another, not connecting the symbols as a whole. I pulled out this comment mainly because what it says about the end, about the swirl potentially being a portal. Because the portals in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon also had a swirl-like shape, I definitely think this is possible. In my theory, the swirl has to do with the formulas behind quantum time crystals and the actual movement within a quantum time crystal, which moves in a sort of pattern, kind of like a swirl. We see this swirling motion with the Pokeball at the end of the trailer, but yeah, I think it definitely could be a portal instead. This next person says that they've always seen C as a speedometer, and this one I don't think is true. Let's imagine for a second that this is a speedometer. We have that 00 there, which means that it should be completely still at this time. However, if we look at this line here, it is not in a horizontal position, which would indicate 00. Therefore, this seems like it probably doesn't quite match up. Plus, we have the triangle at the bottom, and there's no indication as to what that would be if this was a speedometer. That was a really fun one to look into though, so thank you for submitting it. This person submitted the idea that the sextant or navigational tool might be a new form of Rotom. I absolutely love this idea. I think it fits so well with the other forms of Rotom we've seen in the past. Like we've had Pokedexes and cameras and all sorts of things for Rotom, so it makes complete sense to me that this device that's going to be needed to use to navigate potentially a really weird version of reality, that would be perfect. This next person thinks that the symbol D might be the gym challenge logo. I think this is probably false because we saw this like boat version of the gym challenge logo in the trailer. I think that's probably the gym challenge logo, so I think that this is something else. I actually think that this person's theory about symbol D might hold up. It does seem like there's a lot of racing motifs that are put into these games. We have the legendaries, which look like motorcycles, and we have Pokemon centers that look like gas stations. I would love for there to be a racing minigame in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like imagine some sort of like Mario Kart-esque thing going on, but Pokemon themed. I think a lot of people would get these games just for that. Speaking of motorcycles, one of the common theories for the 4 box art symbols is that they represent the different forms that the legendary Pokemon can take. This theory goes that each of these symbols represents a different type of transportation. It says that the symbols that we're seeing on the box art are kind of like seals that we can give to the legendary Pokemon to allow them to transform into these different modes of transportation. Some people have even said that the dragon in the center is their 5th and kind of natural form. One person sent in an explanation of each of the symbols and how it relates to this theory. They say that A is the cardinal directions, and they also kind of look like hooves, so this is kind of a ground travel form. B, they say, has to do with a wave and is maybe swimming and diving. I've also heard people say that the psi looks like a trident. They agree that C looks like a sextant, but they think that the 2 zeros might be eyes, so it could be flying. And they say that D looks like a topographical map of a mountain, so that would potentially be climbing. My problem with this theory is that all of the symbols feel kind of like a stretch. I highly doubt that we're gonna get a diving form, and in the past game, bikes were just able to go across water, so it seems pretty unlikely that A and B are gonna be separate forms. Also, I feel like seeing the 2 zeros as eyes has to do with a very common human error where we just tend to see faces and things, but they're not necessarily there. While I do think climbing will be in the game, I'm not sure I buy that this looks like a topographical map. I feel like they could have used pretty much any other symbol to make this more clear. This person also says that Pokemon is a game for children, so nothing in it will be too complex. And I actually want to push back against this idea because in Gen 4, the legendaries were referencing string theory. Of course, Pokemon didn't say like, oh, this is string theory, let me explain how dimensions work. But they did use string theory as their inspiration, which is how I think they might use quantum time crystals. I think the ride Pokemon theory is definitely possible, but considering that the symbols don't quite match up, and this would involve us getting the legendary Pokemon really early in the game, I don't know if I buy it. Let's move on to another theory that involves all 4 symbols. I'm calling this one the navigation theory. This one was submitted to me by Tiago Rodriguez, and it says that each of the symbols on the box art represents something to do with navigation. The first symbol, he says, has to do with the ocean currents. The second is a device that is used to measure the position of the stars. The third, he agrees, is a sextant, and the fourth, he says, is an armillary sphere, which is kind of like a map of the stars. This would mean that aside from A, the other 3 are navigational instruments. I think with A being something so different, this theory doesn't really hold up. Somebody added to this theory that A might be a compass, pointing in all the 4 directions. I think with A being a compass, this theory fits a lot better. It's possible that during the game, we might be collecting these different navigational instruments. However, I don't think this theory fully holds up for 2 reasons. The first reason is that I don't think symbols A and B match up very well to their inspirations, which is pretty much the same critique I had for the other theory. My second problem with this is that while these instruments do have different uses in real life, they are pretty similar. Within the context of Pokemon, they would have to come up with a different use for each one. That might happen, but I think it would make things kind of complicated. I think it would simplify things a lot just to have one navigational tool that was probably based on a sextant and might be possessed by a Rotom. Okay, on to the more obscure theories. One person said that the symbols might actually represent different mythical or legendary Pokemon. We don't have any evidence for it or against it. There's just nothing about that yet. So yeah, it's technically possible, but there's nothing to like prove that theory correct. And lastly, my personal favorite theory, A is for Pac-Man. Told you I'd put that one in, but seriously though, I've been mentally calling that symbol for Pac-Man in my head, so yeah. What do you think about all these different theories? And do you have another theory of your own that wasn't mentioned? Make sure to let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm almost at 4,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Like my mind is just like, so yeah, basically, you guys are awesome. And on that note, bye.